To the Freddie Kissoon show. Bring it!
Let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, so an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is
It is their right. Yes.
A right, the right that someone has. All of our rights exist in context.
What is the context of a second medical opinion?
Because you're disrespecting the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
Any situation which you seem to do, you're just dealing with Afro-Guyanese issues. If one, you can't bring and pull the leaders of the African community together, you're failing. And if two, you can't put forward a future, a blueprint, and a plan for African Guyanese, you're failing as well.
Very pleasant evening to you. You can see from our screen who is our guest, one of the finest lawyers I happen to have met and befriended, Sanjeev Datatdin. In case you don't know him, you should know. Apart from being a member of parliament, few people know that Sanjeev is also the chairman of the airport. So I don't know if we'll get time to talk about what's happening at the airport, but a lot is going on that we will need Sanjeev's erudition. Remember the last time we were here, he advised parties that have joined and contesting to have one leader of the list. So, as you can see, co-hosting with me as usual is Leonard. We will start off with the topic that is ubiquitous in living rooms, kitchens, watering holes. The GRA has withdrawn the tax evasion charges against Azzuddin Mohammed and his father. Let's ask Sanjeev to expatiate on that. Why? What is the interpretation? How did it happen? What are the legal implications for the state? Etc. Sanjeev, thanks for being here. As usual, it's always good to have you here.
Good evening to your viewers. Good evening to you, Freddie, Leonard.
Oh my God, I always ask you when you're on this program, how is the family?
They're good. And good evening to my family at home. My wife and my son, who should be, well, he'll be up. My daughter'd be asleep. But the short answer is this. Firstly, I should say that I've had some involvement on GRA's side in what is taking place in terms of the prosecutions and what is going on in relation to the matters that are there. So the short answer would be this. International law and the Committee of Nations, how nations treat each other, is usually determined by an agreement, a treaty of some sort. There is, as is applicable to Guyana with the United States, an extradition treaty that was entered into between England and the United States. There is a part of that treaty which you've seen circulating, Article 4 of that treaty, that makes reference to when an extradition request is made in relation to the same matter, then the extradition will have to wait. Or in other matters, if it's other criminal matters, then the extradition could be stayed. Now, that interpretation, that treaty, of course, between England and the United States binds a lot of the Caribbean, binds a lot of territories. And there are interpretations that go both ways. There are interpretations that say that, look, you have to stay the proceedings. There are other interpretations that indicate that, look, it's for the DPP to decide whether to stay. There are various things. But what happens in every instance, the pillar, the bulwark of extradition is by agreement, by a treaty, and then the laws that follow. So what has to happen is you have to decide as a nation, the two nations have to decide, really and truly, how are we going to be in relation to each other? Are we going to treat each other in the spirit of when we made these agreements, or are we going to fight each other over what it means? So if the GRA's withdrawal of the charge is simple, is so that there could be no dispute, or there would be a source of no contention as it would relate to the extradition proceedings that are ongoing. It's pure and simple. It removes what is a possible hurdle from the process.
Oh, okay. Just for the viewers, recap and just correct me if I'm wrong. If any matter of a criminal nature is pending in the courts, it could possibly stop the extradition proceedings. And you're saying the GRA case was criminal, and if it is moved out of the way, there is nothing in the way of the extradition matter. Well, for the viewers,
yes,
just clarify.
That would be the short answer. Mm-hmm. Yes, but you have to remember the interpretations that will exist, and as I said, they are interpretations. This provision, this article, has been interpreted throughout the Commonwealth because everybody that has had a relationship, being a colony of England, now most of them have that. So it has been interpreted. The interpretations are nuanced, and this just means that it doesn't even arise anymore, or this is in furtherance of it doesn't arise.
Right.
Anymore.
So no need fighting over.
No need to engage in the interpretation. No need to consider whether it's one way or another. It just means that these procedures. You see, a lot of it has to do with the nature and severity as well. There is a body, and there are some decisions that relate to the nature and severity. As we know, like it's the difference between murder and assault. If you're charged with both those offenses, you're usually charged with the serious one. But it means that this provision is an impediment.
Right.
And it's a possible way of that the extradition order will be made but stayed while this is being continued, so that the process. This just means that there is no possible challenge in that regard.
The corollary to that, though, is aren't we giving up millions, possible tens of millions of dollars?
No, it's billions.
Billions.
Guyana dollars.
Yeah.
Billions.
Yeah.
I'm missing something. Okay, aren't we possibly giving up billions of dollars of money that should go to the Treasury if that case is pursued?
Well, I don't want to speak on behalf of the state, but let me give you a simple legal scenario that applies. If the proceedings are pending at the time extradition is filed, it means you can claim that the extradition must be stayed. But as I told you, that is a claim. The choice to stay the extradition, all of these things are judicial decisions. Right. So it could be other. But there's nothing to stop you that once the extradition is complete to file those charges, because it's not pending at the time.
So you could remove charge and reinstitute them? That's allowed in the system?
There are several ways. So for example, in the process that relates to the charge yesterday, which he had not come to court and pleaded to, then the mechanism is simple. There was no jeopardy. You withdraw it, you could reinstate it. In relation to charges, if one had pleaded, there are mechanisms that are available, powers the DPP would exist that would allow for the charge to be brought to an end without the res judicata and the double jeopardy and the various arguments arising and be instituted later. There are mechanisms in place. So to answer whether Guyana is giving up billions in revenue, the answer is no. The government of Guyana is entitled to take the steps that they're taking, and they're also, as far as I am aware, far as I am informed from our chief legal officer, the government intends to pursue every dollar that it is owed.
There are views going around, and the best person to talk about that would be a lawyer. There are views going around because you have different tiers of jurisprudence in Guyana: magistrate, high court, full court, court of appeal, CCJ. That extradition hearing could well go into years?
No, not likely at all. Extradition in the magistrate's court, it's given our law and the amendments, it's a judicial act, but essentially it's an administrative act. Judicial review proceedings, which is what they have said that they want to raise, there's so much limitations about what you could actually raise and what you could actually question. And it shouldn't be a difficult process in going through the court system. Shouldn't be a difficult process. At the end of the day, bear this in mind. This entire extradition process doesn't convict you of an offense. This is a process to present you to the court so that you can make your defense to whatever the claim and the charge is against you. So any defense you have to the charge, any defense you want to raise, any complaint of procedure you want to raise, any complaint about fairness and all of that, you have to raise to the criminal court. This is not the criminal court. This is a court that is a specialized jurisdiction where, from the Committee of Nations, you have, let me give you an example. You know that there was, and there has been much said about proceedings from a magistrate in Guyana being served on Rickford Burke. And the complaint being that the police have no extraterritorial power, etc. The extradition process is born out of you wanting to engage the law enforcement in that country to become an extension of you. So you are asking them, by agreement between the nations, that look, my courts would like to try someone, but he's in your country and he's not coming to my country. Can you deliver him to my court? When he goes to court, every defense, and the rule since Bridgelal, since Inderjali, since Bisram, all of which I did at the CCJ, have laid it bare and clear. And there is Sat Sharma's case in Trinidad. Every complaint you have about a criminal process, you have to raise it in the criminal court. You can't divide it. In the old days, you used to be allowed to raise all these things about that you want to raise outside of it. Now, the constitutional right under 139, for example, where you are detained and your rights, you can't raise it for extradition because extradition is specifically removed from it.
In your estimation, then, we're talking about months or years?
I think weeks.
Weeks?
Yes, I don't see that the process should engage in a very lengthy, because our laws say that you can't raise these objections in our court.
So it is just arrest and transport. Extradition is simply arrest and transport. But we have a legal requirement that it must go through some judge or magistrate.
Reason why that exists, Leonard, is simple. You can't. A lawful authority somewhere has to be responsible for collecting the person, keeping him safe, putting him on a plane, and let him go to where he has to go. So we are just driving the bus. You understand? Some agency has to be charged with that responsibility. And that's what it amounts to. It's not a complicated thing, because every defense he has, every complaint he has, every procedural defect that he wishes to come to has to be raised in the court in which he's being tried. And that court must address them all.
I want to bring up the issue of duality that was raised and is floating around in the news. It is being said that these two charges of wire fraud and mail fraud is unknown to our country. And let me give you my interpretation, and then you will guide me and the viewers. My understanding is that the two countries got to have similar or the same crime.
Yes.
Does it have to? In my opinion, and I'm subject to your correction, then the title of the offense is not important. It is what the offense is. If you were to conduct yourself the same way in Guyana as you did over here, it would have resulted in a charge of a similar nature, regardless of the title of the charge. Would I be right in saying that?
Let me answer you this way. I know that it's live, and the answer is in fact very simple. But so let me put it to you this way. In the United States, for example, there's several degrees of murder. First degree, second degree, third, fourth, goes all the way through. And then there's several species of manslaughter. Guyana has murder. Guyana has manslaughter. All these various divisions are really divisions in form, but not so much substance, because we recognize these offenses. So you can commit fraud, for example, by probably forging a check. You could commit fraud by pretending you're selling eyeglasses when they're not eyeglasses. You could commit fraud pretty much any way. Now, the question is the subject of fraud comparable in the United States and here? And are they comparable species that if you wire funds for an illegal purpose and you wire money in furtherance of a crime, or to fool somebody or to deceive somebody, whether you could be charged with fraud in Guyana? So the label, as you say, is not it. But the thing of fraud, it's conspiracy to commit fraud. And how those are the particulars, if you like, of the matters. So the court will look at, simply put, the court will address its mind. The offense that you're saying here, do we have an equivalent offense here? And if the label doesn't matter,
right,
it is whether you could be charged with those particulars. And I can't imagine that those particulars, as I've read in the press, are not criminal offenses in Guyana.
There is a story making the rounds, and it got displaced. It was in the news, in the media, social media, and then it got displaced by the bomb incident, which we will come to, and now the extradition thing. There is a disagreement between Madam Chairman of GCOM and Mr. Vincent Alexander. I quote her exact words. No, Alexander is saying, the Constitution gives life status to a GCOM commissioner. These were the words, exact words of the chairman. I don't know where he got that from. Could you untangle what's going on there?
So the simple answer to what or the scenario which you're speaking of, I don't want it to be held that this is the view of the party of which I'm a part or bind the state or anything. But I will tell you this. There's a provision that says that the leader of the opposition will appoint 3 members and the leader of the government will appoint 3 members. Now, that was never an issue. But what happened in 2015 is we flipped the script. Opposition became government, government became opposition. And somewhere in that scenario, the personalities like Mr. Alexander and others had posited, well, they were simply going to change. All that was required then is they would change their label. So you would have been opposition commissioner. You are now government commissioner. And government commissioner now become opposition commissioner. So you didn't need to reappoint. I thought, and I have a fundamental problem with that, because you were appointed by the opposition and you were appointed by the government. But now that opposition becomes government, is it you simply switch the roles? I find that to be, without examining the intricacies of the words, I find that to be repugnant to any common sense. But I will say this as it relates to the appointment, and there is an argument that once you are appointed, that you're appointed for life, which is essentially what Vincent Alexander has been saying since a long time ago and what he said in 2020, and that he couldn't be removed. But implicit in the power to appoint is the power to disappoint. So every power to appoint includes in it, by implication, the power to remove. The distinction that is arising here is that the Constitution provides about the time and that the commissioners should be able to serve. And there are constitutional provisions that speak to that. That is being relied upon to say that you can't remove them, that they have what we refer to as security of tenure. But if that interpretation is given to what the spirit is, it would be most unfortunate. I have always thought that the sensible course of every commissioner would be to offer their resignation. How could you choose to be a representative of the leader of the opposition when you don't have the confidence of the leader of the opposition? Right. What are you doing there? Now, I know that there are constitutional provisions that speak to tenure, but I'm saying you're supposed to be, and you have no confidence. So who do you get instructions from? Who do you consult and confer with before you take a vote at GCOM? Who do you who raises issues? Who is the opposition leader going to have? Remember, this scenario, as you well know, Freddie, and I'm sure you know, Leonard, when President Carter came up with this, which he didn't intend to last until now, right. But when he came up with it, he said, look, let us put 3 from your side, 3 from your side, and a commissioner in the middle. so that all the concerns you have about list, about voting, about polling stations, you have here. So whatever, that's what he said to Chetty. At least that's that's what I read in what was written about those things. That's what I'm told by the former commissioner about the nature of what took place. They were put there for 1992 because elections should have been held in 1990. We were 2 years out of time. But what was being told to everyone and what was being said is, look, all of these things that you keep raising with the one commissioner that was there, it might have been Harold Mullers or whoever it was, with the one commissioner and he telling you, haul your tail, we're not listening to that, we're doing this. And he says, look, let's create a body. We got to have an independent man in the middle. And the two of you raise all your issues and let the independent man and you vote on it. And that's how it has proceeded since. But now we have a man who is the leader of the opposition. He has nobody to talk to. He has nobody to say to them, this is where you go. And they will not do the decent thing and resign. They want to hold on for what? Nobody wants them there anymore. So they're holding on for what? Their independence? It is not intended that you're independent.
Right.
You're there by government or opposition.
So what should have happened in the past was that when the script was flipped or an opposition leader is changed, those persons should have been removed and reappointed. Would that be one of your interpretations?
Yeah, but I think that would be what I would say. I would say that at every government election, it would come to an end. But I know the 10-year provision in the Constitution says that once they're appointed, they're appointed. But there must be the leader of the opposition must have access in GCOM.
Especially if the leader of the opposition is from a different party.
As is
so
this
we
case.
Understand, moving from Harmon...
Mr. Mohamed is entitled to have representatives in GCOM. How could you not be able to tell him, get on your bike? And he wants to stay to do what? Who does he represent? And he's representing the people of Guyana. They didn't put him there. He wasn't elected. He was appointed. Now I understand the confusion is because we have this provision that says you're appointed, and we have this provision about the tenure of the and the part that goes to the tenure is fairly. You have security at tenure. But security at tenure is required so that you can't willy-nilly be removed for all these things. So on. But the leader of the opposition must. And if that is necessary, then we must amend the Constitution now to remove them.
And does that provision, if you know offhand, does that provision require the normal 2/3 or a simple majority could change that?
Everything in the Constitution, the minimum is 2/3.
Everything.
There's higher. No, there's higher. There's referendum.
No, I know some of them are
right. So, but 2/3. And there is... I think if you look at 2/3 is easily achievable.
Yeah, because they
will be 2/3. But I can't imagine that any party would support a man being there when they are entitled to a man. Because let us say, argument, in the next election, APNU finds its voice again. And they are the main opposition. Then they would want to be able to put their people too. You understand? It has to be a right. It cannot be interpreted and abused in this way. You should appoint honorable people to these positions. That is the expectation. If you don't have the confidence of the man who sits in the chair that would have appointed you, you should go.
There is also a view in the public that if this that you're saying applies to Alexander and others, it should also apply to the chair, because this new opposition leader does not, the chair does not enjoy his confidence from a list of 6. How would you navigate that?
Sorry, just responding quickly, but
we can cut out the piece.
Yeah, but let me tell you, no, should not apply, and this is why. The chairman is the impartial one, picked because two main sides decides it's fair. If you try to impose or bring into that, the logic would be that you're fixing it. Bear in mind that the people who are appointed by leader of the opposition, they should consult with the leader of the opposition, receive instructions and directions. That is the expectation. The chairman is supposed to be neutral. If you don't like the chairman, that might be a good thing. You understand? No side should have control over the chairman. That should be a good thing. You understand? But the provisions that relate to the chairman is by consensus of the two. Now, if I understand correctly, the argument that I am hearing is that the new opposition leader wants to say that he should be able to recommend the person that is the chairman. But there is no, what should I say? There is no devil or there is no mischief which his recommendation should fix. It should have been an impartial person, impartial to him, impartial to APNU, AFC, Miss Walton and the PPP. It should be impartial to them all.
I think we're partying Forward Guyana.
Yes. So I think it should be something that is impartial to them all. Not so there is no mischief whether you got the choice or you didn't get the choice. You are, of course, if you can show that there is bias and if you can show that those are things that exist, then of course every office holder, not only GCOM, every independent office holder, applied to judges, everybody. If you can show and demonstrate bias, then the process for removal can be engaged upon. Right? But in these circumstances, it is not comparing apples to apples. It is comparing apples to oranges. And the interpretation must always be guided by the intention. What did they intend? They intended the chairman to be an independent man. So no side loses. But they didn't intend that when they said the leader, the opposition, and the government appoint the commissioners. They intended emissaries, agents of the opposition and government to be sitting in GCOM.
The Win said they won the elections. As a long-serving parliamentarian, as someone who come in this program and give profound political analysis of the contents of Guyana, Win won that election. Did Win win?
When I was a child, there was a thing we used to say: "Don't drink your own Kool-Aid," and he's drinking his own Kool-Aid. He is. So look, my personal view is the nation is surprised that Win has gotten as many seats as they have. But if you were looking on the ground, I campaigned. I worked on the East Bank in Region 7, elsewhere. I think APNU took for granted and did not fight back. It was evident everywhere. AFC, I don't think they had a single rally. Not a single rally did they have. They might have had 3 people and a dog. You know, they didn't do public meetings. They didn't have an online presence. I saw little or nothing beyond 1 or 2 videos with music that I don't really like. I mean, trying to too sophisticated for me, you know. But all these.
What genre of music was that?
Classical.
Classical?
Well, I don't know if it was
Bach and Chopin and Beethoven, you know? I didn't see that.
But what I'm saying is,
it was few, right?
Yeah, I saw. That's what I'm telling you, Freddie. It wasn't in wide circulation. What their message was, there was no online presence, there was no on the street presence. There was no, APNU did a couple rallies at the very end, but if I am no political expert, but I will tell you, in my mind, and from what exchanges I was having in villages on the ground, villages that are traditional strongholds of the PPP and strongholds, villages that were strongholds of the PNC and APNU, is they were upset. They had nothing to get behind, almost. There was an absence. And then a lot of people said to me and to others that it was so late it appeared an afterthought, that, you know what, it's like the example, like the only one is like this, you know, it's Christmas time, let's put up a tree. You got no presents to put on it, you have no pepper pot on the stove, you have no cake in the oven, you have no sorrel and mobby in the fridge, but you put up a tree and you expect everybody will come. No gifts, no nothing. So that's how APNU approached the thing. You know, it's election, we got to have a rally. Let's have a rally. It came as an afterthought, but they had a very strong presence online.
Social media.
On social media, they were every day, and they were
everywhere. Yeah.
And then towards the end, they did try to have a presence. Now, everybody has to. I mean, every party has their leadership, and their leadership makes decisions. But I think that APNU did not realize, perhaps, or did not understand, but they didn't contest, really. And what happened is Win ate into their seats. And if you look at the areas, and that's what happened. The PPP had a good election. We grew. Now, everybody's mentioning about what Win has done as remarkable, because I think people didn't expect it. But I think even Win was shocked that they got as far as they did, and as many as they did. So he's totally delusional to think that he won. I mean, he was in shock. He appeared to be in shock that he got 16 seats. But you got to look at what happened. We're still a pool of 65. And contrary to the best efforts of Mr. Hughes, 33 is still the top number. We were at 33 in 2020. We have gained 3 seats to 36. The opposition has gone down. This is the combined opposition of every opposition in Guyana. They have gone down. We have gained 3. So that's a landslide. What the PPP has done is grown. The opposition have lost. I think what is even more remarkable is that the main opposition party has been totally outdone by a new opposition party. But they're all combined as opposition. And they have still not achieved what they did in 2020.
So far, how does the opposition impress you, those that are appointed to parliament, and generally what's coming from the opposition that is floating around in news, that is on social media, and that is in officialdom? How is the opposition engaging the government and in parliament and so on? What's your view?
You see, Lennox, I say this, right? In parliament, for all the everything else, the crosstalk, the everything, the important thing that must happen in parliament is that the people of Guyana must be represented. Their interests must be represented. Look, APNU, APNU AFC in the last government, if you look at the register, they were not there. You could see it on videos on TV. They're not there half of the time. They're like 3 people sitting in the opposition benches. It's not a joke. It would be funny if it wasn't so serious, but it was common that they would leave after lunch and be gone. And then they would come late in the afternoon when we have afternoon sessions and leave after the dinner time meal. They wouldn't stay on. They would not speak. They would not represent their constituencies, which they claim to love. They would not engage in the debates. They would not advance the interest of the people they claim to represent. The opposition leader, he must have spoken in parliament 5 times, if so much. And that might be exaggerating it. I don't recall it being more. And there are a number of opposition MPs under the AFC, APNU AFC, who only spoke at budget. Because when the budget is passed, it's mandatory. Everybody's put on the speaking list. So everybody speaks. But there's so much legislation. The Attorney General of Guyana, Mr. Nandlal, has been so prolific. He has literally taken Guyana by the scruff of the neck where laws are concerned and dragged us up. He's putting 24, 25, 26. He's batting like Brian Lara all the time, scoring pieces of legislation per year through Parliament. That doesn't count the budget and the other ones. This is real legislation coming, amendments, changes. But we don't know what the views of the opposition MPs were. They never spoke on them.
In Parliament, opposition.
And to answer what's going to happen, what happened now, the first day of Parliament came. It's a spectacle about what car the leader, the man who hopes to be leader of the opposition, what car he drives, and everything he says is not even a sound bite. It's comical. It's meant to be. I don't know. He's a comedian. But that's the approach. Now that approach will not help the 100,000 that he said voted for him because of his policies. What are they going to get? You got to understand, it's not about you have to represent them. You have to represent your people. PPP was in opposition in 2015. If you look at the parliamentary proceedings, everything, they put a full list of speakers, put bills, motions. What brought the government down? It was a no confidence motion filed by Mr. Jack Dale. Motions to push. That's how you represent your people. You know that, all right, the numbers and the vote will come, but you got to push. You got to push forward. But if the attitude is you don't want to engage They're not even engaging with each other, it seems.
Right. That's the strangest thing. Yeah.
There was a vote for deputy speaker,
Yeah.
and APNU abstained.
Yeah. Yeah.
My memory of following that specific issue in the parliament is not so long, but I don't know of a time that had happened.
Right. Right.
Maybe under the PNC in the 80s and the 70s when the Jagan and his party were thrown out, or they weren't happy with the amount of seats, or they threw flour at somebody or a book at somebody. Those events that took place, those things happen in the parliament.
Yes, yeah.
I've read of. But I have never known an opposition party to abstain from a vote of deputy speaker. And this is not the first time we've had more than one. The UF used to be in parliament. I've never known that to be the position.
There is only one word adjective to use, esoteric. There is an esoteric document, and as a lawyer, could you tell me what's going to happen there? There is a document that the former leader of ANU during the election, Dr. Mark France said, was signed between WIN and ANU for the allocation of seats, which WIN reneged on. Do they have a case in court?
Well, you remember in the
He
last...
said that he told us the document exists.
Well, I haven't seen the document. So, firstly, the document has to provide that whether it's justiciable or not, if there is such a clause, to say that they agree not to go to court and they want arbitration or alternative dispute or mediation, it would mean whether they could go to court. But it's strange we haven't seen this document yet, and it's so thing. We all know, well, I know from Dr. Josh Kanai that, and what he said publicly, that in the last parliament there was a sort of an agreement, and we know from Tim Jonas that there was some agreement with the three parties to join the list, and that what happened was Ms. Kissoon should have stepped out and didn't, in accordance with the agreement, and there was nothing that could have been done. So in terms of enforceability by going into parliament, I don't know what it would have provided. But if it is in the terms of that list, that previous agreement which I saw between Schumann, Ashley Kissoon, and Jonas, well, their parties, if it's in those terms, then I don't think the legal proceedings would be of any use. If, however, it provides specifically for remedies and other things, then that would be different. But it's shocking, isn't it? We elect people who profess to be of a certain character and ilk. It's just like Alexander in GCOM saying, I'm not leaving. I think his father must have given him that in his will. That's the only reason he could want to remain.
There is viewpoints circulating out there, and it's very much alive, that without as within Mohammed, when it's going to slowly and creepingly just fizzle out. You think such a possibility exists?
I think whether or not he's there, they will fizzle out. That's, I mean, everybody has a particular view, and I'll explain to you why. I thought, no, I don't want it to be a criticism about APNU and its leadership or the party, but they were at sea looking for AFC. Both of them. I mean, I'm not sure. Freddie, I worked every day on the East Bank or in Region 7 or sometimes in Region 6. sometimes in Region 4. Every day there were things to be done, and it wasn't me, it was a lot of others who worked harder than I without a doubt. I can't tell you that I saw a single AFC flyer or person. And prior to August, mid-August, perhaps, first, second week in August, I didn't see one for AFC either. I think that whether or not he is taken in the extradition proceedings and whether or not he's absent or whatever, I do think that win would be with the older political parties being organized in the minimum way that a political party is expected to behave. I don't think that he will survive. I think a lot of people may go to where they have traditionally has been. But the other thing is, the world is changing, right? Social media. I mean, when last you read the newspapers?
Yeah, Freddie's a
I
dinosaur.
write a daily column.
Freddie is
for
a
the Chronicle.
dinosaur.
But when last you read it?
I'm a dinosaur. So
He gets the physical
but when
newspaper.
last you read it? No, you read all of them?
I normally read the newspapers. Yeah.
All four?
No.
Right.
My paper that I write for the Chronicle.
Good.
And the Starbuck News.
Right.
I hardly read the culture because I'm fed up with oil all the time.
Yeah, and Times.
No.
Right. So you read Chronicle largely. I mean,
I write
for your
for it,
vanity,
yeah.
I would do it too. If I wrote, I would read it to see. But my point is,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I know where you're coming from.
the point is, in the old days, if we remember, I remember 2010 World Cup. It might have been 2010 World Cup leading into 2011
Football World Cup.
elections. No, cricket.
Cricket
It
was
in the
2007.
region. No, the 2020 World Cup. I think it was 2010. Yeah, in the Caribbean, in the lead up to the 2011 elections, when you were watching the games on television, they would steal 2 balls every over with political ads.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
And that was the way it was done. The radio, the television, the newspapers were full page ads after full page ads. All the newspapers got fat. There were all of this going on. Then there was 2015. In 2015, you're watching things on television and they would steal your sport. I like sports. They steal your sport time with all the ads.
Yeah.
And now you didn't really notice a lot of that. But if you went online, Facebook, especially Facebook and TikTok, you were inundated with things from Guyana. So I guess it's changed as to the medium that it is. And I guess the young generation are looking at different places, but it also means that the traditional ways of campaigning
It's gone. Yeah.
has gone. On this occasion,
Social media.
on this occasions, people were complaining or saying that the PPP was doing phone calls to people, and they found that to be offensive. Where you got the number from and why you got your number. What backward society is that? You have a phone for what? What do you have a telephone for?
For people to call you.
And
I presume. And then you want to know where you got the number from? You see, we have this ridiculous concept in our head of privacy. We think in the Western concept of privacy. We say that Asian companies are stealing your information and Western companies don't. You really believe that? If you believe that, I have a bridge to sell. You understand? Then when you look at the bigger picture, you answer the phone. You don't want to talk to who's on the phone. Hang up the phone. I don't understand.
I can imagine how you feel.
Why you listen? You know there are people who don't answer calls, and I, as long as I'm not in court or asleep, or with my son, because I have rules when I'm.
You answered my 8 o'clock call this morning.
Yeah, I did, but I have rules when I'm with him, right? You can't be on the phone. I gotta answer everything he asks, and he doesn't repeat if I miss it. So I understand he's my priority, and he will remain that way. But I'm telling you, you have a phone to answer it. So unless I'm in a position not to answer, I don't care who calls, I answer. If it's the wrong number, I say it's the wrong number. If I can't talk right now, I tell you I can't talk right now. If I don't want to talk to you, I tell you, I have nothing to say. What is wrong with that? I want to know, to all these lovely citizens of this country, why did you get a phone? Is it for only people that you want and you choose to call you? Then, comrade, you need your own network. You're using the public network.
Yeah.
The operator say 4 minutes left. So we have to get your views on Aubrey Norton's performance, his future, and why did Nigerians fail so ignominiously?
I think both of them suffered from the same thing that we're talking about. They exist in a world that doesn't exist anymore. Their thinking belongs in the past. Those are the two things. The other thing, I have a personal view. And I think that AFC paid for what they did in 2020. I think the reason that they, in Trinidad terms, you remember Hulsi Bagan? And you forfeit your deposit when you don't keep your word. That's what Bas Deopande told her. And I think the equivalent happened to the AFC. I mean, we don't do the deposits here for constituency, but to get on the ballot in Trinidad, you have to deposit a certain amount of money. And if you get more than 3% or 5% of the votes, you get it back. So you have to put a deposit. They would have forfeited their deposit because they paid, I believe, they paid for 2020. Norton, on the other hand, not only I think he doesn't exist, he's a time gone by, and he didn't adapt. I think he was in a position where the party, the sand was moving under his feet, and he was not reacting. There was one time he reacted. He reacted to Amanza and her press conference by acting decisively. He appointed a prime ministerial candidate, announced it, and he stole the headlines. But that was the only glimmer or flash that he had anything in him. And then comes the bigger picture. Everybody said that the young people and people would forget 2020. I don't think people really forgave the 2020 because there's not been an apology. It has to start with sorry. When you were a little boy, you did something. Your mother hold your hand and carry you and say sorry. Because that starts the process. There's never been an apology from those two parties, and they think everybody is foolish, and they think everybody will blindly follow them. They have no vision. They have no policies. The things they say are not true. They're mathematically incompetent. English is a challenge. They don't want to go to Parliament. They have no programs to speak of in Parliament. All they're good at is cussing people. That's good for a laugh. But people are not going to come and follow you for a laugh. Even in the Mohameds online type of campaign, at least there was a campaign. You could have seen that there was something cohesive. This didn't happen. And I think Norton's leadership, He has to look at himself. How could so many people have left? James Bond. I thought James Bond in the PNC was the future. James Bond left. Followed, when James left, it was an exodus. He had Jermaine Figueira, who was one of the few MPs, by the way, who used to be in Parliament. And he ostracized, or he disconnected from him, and Jermaine left.
Quickly, Leonard, and then we...
Yeah, my last question to you would be with respect to your chairmanship of the airport. We have had a recent bombing at the gas station, and the nation is in a little
Jittery.
Yeah, let's use that term. Can you assure the nation that you have taken steps at the airport to beef up security, to look out then that,
So we can't. We've been told not to speak too much about the security specifically, but I will say this. The same night, we convened some meetings and we got advice. The next day, our CEO consulted widely. I spoke to as many of the people that are in that field or in that thing, and every single suggestion, recommendation, whatever you want to call it, every single one, we have done to the best of what we have. Some of it involves equipment and training, and we have already, from our subject minister, Mr. Datatdin, he has been fully supportive. Whatever we have to get, whatever we have to do, we have not taken it lightly. We have taken it very, very seriously, and with all our resources, all our checking, all our everything we have, and every agency that you would expect to lend us assistance, we have sought them out and we are receiving.
Okay.
So we're doing everything we can.
The operator will be 2 minutes over time. Sanjeev, it's always interesting and absorbing talking to you.
Yeah, sure.
You're a fine lawyer.
Good night.
And,
May your God be with you.
You're sticking at 2?
Yes. Yes.
Sanjeev Datatdin said he's sticking with 2 children. Nothing anymore. Thanks for watching on this Friday evening to one of Guyana's most learned and interesting lawyer and attorney at law, Sanjeev Datatdin. Thanks for being with us. Enjoy whatever's left of Friday evening and your weekend. We will see you here on Monday on our call-in program. Catch you later on behalf of Sanjeev and Leonard Craig. Bye-bye.